Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Adventures of the Windswift. Well, if you haven't been watching these last episode, as a matter of fact, you won't know the predicament that the character is in. So to help us out, someone, according to the Dice of Destiny, is going to tell us who is going to recap just where our crew is. And on the roll, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's Sophie. Off you go. Saket, what happened last week?
What happened last week? Well, we were on the boat at the beginning, and the touching moment between Adru'sai and Jorik as she gave him back his lovely mended shirt. So that was lovely. But we had a long meeting about what to do about the cook, because he had been a bit of a naughty boy, and we decided that we were going to take him to the Order of Hastari and put him in prison, basically. But he's just going to get to cook for the cadets or something. And we also took the... can't remember his name, but I remember it meant dog pup.
The puppy.
The puppy. We took the puppy to the prison too, and he gave us a cryptic message, but I'll come up to that later. And Adru'sai let us know what was happening in the book and about the lizard man. Con recognized the name a bit, and so did Jorik. But it's still a bit of a mystery. We had some fun with some candy floss, and then when we got to Knaxa, we dropped off our prisoners, and the pup said to tell his father that he should invest in property in the Markham Gulf. Don't know what that means yet, but we'll find out. And as we're all going off to have a meal, the doctor comes along from the prison looking a little bit diseased and cloudy-eyed and, lovely, and tells us that the gnomes are eating each other. And that was where we kind of left it.
That pretty much sums up, I think, so the highlights of last week's episode. Correct. So, yes, without any further delay, Blaxton, you were travelling with the prisoner Huntkin, if I remember correctly. Is that right? You were taking the elevator down with Captain Benteen, who works for the Warden. And it was Captain Vox.
I have one question about that.
Yes.
I know that they didn't want me to draw my weapon or keep my weapons when I went in.
Correct.
Usually I have an array of different weapons on me, though. So which ones did they take?
Just the obvious visible ones. They don't do too much for search, anything else than that. So
So in that case, then I wouldn't have had my halberd, but then right. The club and the sword. But then I still have my daggers.
Yes. All right. Whilst the four of you were travelling with the warden, Raoul Lack, who was informed by Captain Vox that indeed gnomes have started to cannibalize one another.
He was a captain. I thought he was a doctor.
Well, he is. He's Captain Dr. Vox.
Dr. Professor Vox.
Yes, he's actually Lord Captain Dr. Vox.
Lord Baron.
But we don't go that far in the order. One has sort of surrendered one's titles and things. And yes, so that's exactly what we find. As you four had already started down that long corridor that had required the captain to place his palm up against a glyph, which then magically read who he was, and then it would open up the portals, allowing him to move through. With this announcement of Captain Vox saying that the gnomes have started to cannibalize one another, Warden Lack has changed from being the welcoming host to someone who's a little bit more urgent. He turns to the four of you. If you don't mind, I would need to attend to this. There are quarters in the administration building which you may stay in temporarily whilst we resolve this. I assure you, there's nothing to be worried about. Dinner will be served on schedule.
Are you sure you are not in need of my assistance, Doctor?
That would be very nice. A second set of eyes would be fantastic. Thank you.
Happy to help.
I
presume you're restraining the prisoners.
Captain Con, you needn't involve yourself in the prison affairs. It's understandable if you wish to offer.
Not 10 minutes ago, you asked me for my help.
Well, I think perhaps there's some overreaction going on. Now
you have prisoners trying to eat each other. I presume, Doctor, I dismissed the warden and stopped. I presume that they're being restrained and sedated.
Well, no. Well, it's a bit complicated. Give me a perception check, if you wouldn't mind, please, Doctor.
Certainly.
Dr. Professor Captain.
Yes, thank you very much. Oh, bollocks.
Lord, Professor Captain.
So that would be 7.
I know his backstory. Don't know.
All right. So, yes, everything seems absolutely fine. The warden says, if you want to go with him, then you may go with him. And, perhaps if the three of you would prefer to stay in the administrative building, then that would be... I'll show you that way before I again deal with this issue.
Yeah, I don't need to see things eating each other.
Absolutely. It's only happened once before. I wouldn't worry about it. He takes you through. Captain Dr. Vox looks at you and says, well, if you'll come this way. And he lurches off in a different direction towards the infirmary area.
Sorry, yeah.
Which you know that these facilities will have something like this. It's just part of that. And it doesn't take you long before you get to one of the doors, which the captain doctor puts his hand on to engage. The door opens up, and you can hear this loud shouting. Someone's commanding someone to back off, get down, that kind of thing. And you can see there's not a captain, there's a guard with this very long spear, and he's pointing it directly at a gnome who's standing there with his hands raised. And the gnome is saying, you gotta believe me, I'm not infected, I'm not one of them. And the guard is standing there just saying, stay back, I know, stay back, don't come any further. Vox looks over at you. This is going to be a bit of a problem, I think.
You need to set up isolation. The ones that are not presenting symptoms need to be isolated by themselves. Do you have any empty cells?
Yes, of course we do. Absolutely. I just need to step into my office quickly. I need to get something. Just make sure that the guard captain doesn't do anything silly to the gnomes.
Captain, if you impale that man with that spear, I will immolate you where you stand. Do you understand? Does that make it perfectly clear?
Yes, sir. But if the gnome is dangerous,
doesn't look very dangerous to me right now. If he tries to eat your face off, you have my permission to kill him, but not before. Understood?
Why would I try to eat his face off? That's crazy.
What's going on in there?
Says the gnome. Behind him, you can see that there is a large set of barred doors, and beyond that looks like a series of cells. So it looks like this gnome has obviously come through that area, perhaps, and has now been stopped by this particular guard. You can see that the gnome has on his hand a very similar symbol to the order, but it's not Historia, it's not Anchor, and it's definitely not Octorellicar. It's something different. But yes, definitely has a brand on them.
Oh, for mobile phones in this universe, I need to talk to Blaxton.
Oh, you can use the horn, sir. And you see...
I don't know where Blaxton is, though.
Yes, that's a problem. You can see that very similar to the Windswift setup, there's these little speaking horns everywhere with corks as to sort of the broad areas you want to try and reach.
Right.
So yes, that's what's happening there. Blaxton, the elevator that you are currently going down in with Huntkin and Captain Benteen is slowly making its way down. And the rather interesting thing is that there's no ropes or pulleys that you can see in effect. And there are these wall-mounted light sources. They look like they're sort of half-circular glass balls that have just been inset into the actual stonework itself, but they're illuminated. It doesn't look like they're illuminated by fire either. Benteen looks over at you and says, is this your first time here at Knaxa?
Not intending to stay.
Not many people do, but that's our job, isn't it? to keep them here, obviously. Right,
Yes.
No, yes. Well, Warden has told us that your prisoner is to be maximum security. You needn't come with us to the entire facility if you don't want to. I understand it can be quite.
I do want to.
Right. Well,
I do want to inspect and what kind of security measures I leave this person with you.
I think you'll find that you'll be hard-pressed to get any better security than the security that we have here at Knaxa.
Yes, I will inspect it myself. And if I come to the same conclusion, then this will suffice.
Well, then, let me make it my mission to make it suffice. We often get your type down here, don't worry. Everyone's skeptical about Knaxa, but we've been going for 250-odd years. We've never had a single breakout in that time. Well, there was one incident. We don't count it as a breakout, do we? Anyway, the elevator comes to a stop, and he places his hand on this ward next to the door, and the door opens up. He looks at you and he says, your ward will probably work, well, at least certain in the minimum security areas anyway. Any member of the order has got access to that point. But once you get to maximum security, you're going to need a guard to travel with you. Just remember that, just in case you were wondering about our security. And yes, the ward does check to make sure that that person who owns the sigil is alive, except for the 3 vampires that are within the order. They've been given special dispensation. So no, you can't cut someone's hand off and just place it against the glyph. It won't work.
Is it your usual idea to disclose these kinds of information in front of a prisoner?
Telling him that he can't cut my hand off, well, I think that's a good thing to tell the prisoner whilst you're escorting him. Takes away hope, doesn't it? Besides, where he's going, it doesn't matter. Anyway, let's show you the rest of this facility. So he takes you, this long corridor extends down in front of you, and there's 2 more of these doors that you have to go through. And in each door, there's 2 guards that are posted, and they all stand very promptly as you
Do they have weapons?
They seem to be armed with what appears to be it looks like a truncheon, but it's plugged into the wall. There's a cable that runs from the truncheon to the wall. As you're passing one of them, he sort of notices you looking at the guards and things. The facility is powered, of course, and those devices there activate in their hands. They can discharge a rather nasty shock from about 100 foot away, so you're not likely to be able to run anywhere, not unless you're very good at dodging electricity. He says, and then he looks up at the chained and manacled Huntkin and says, so unless you're feeling lucky, lightning does strike in the same place twice, at least when my officers are firing them. Anyway, now if you come this way, we're now underneath the minimum security cells. See, completely separated between the minimum security idiots and the confined fools. We've still got another elevator to go, so I hope you're not hoping to get to the warden's lunch anytime soon. Or dinner, whatever it is that he's serving to you people. He continues down the corridor and he kind of points out the fact, I hope you noticed there's been no windows that we've passed recently. Completely self-contained facility. All of the air is brought in, especially using this rather ingenious gnomish system, which, yes, has grates over every exit port, and none of them have been rusted through. They are checked on a regular basis. And that's how he kind of conducts you down, just sort of bragging about all these sort of normal weak points they checked, and they're this, and they're that, and the next thing. As you go, you realize that you've gone for at least 150 feet before you arrive at the final portal, which then he opens again. And there's this mega lift shaft. It drops down 300 foot. And you can see slowly rising up this platform. And he looks at you. Now, we are aware that some of our inmates are quite accustomed to being underground, so we've made sure to separate them from the underground. This entire facility is suspended, so it doesn't actually touch the wall. So even if you were to dig through your cell wall, you'd find yourself facing a rather nasty drop, courtesy of the Drow. They've dug us rather a nice little ditch here. Anyway. The elevator eventually arrives. He gets on.
And just to drive the point home, it's all suspended over lava.
No.
Sharks with laser.
Yes, there are sharks with lasers. Yes, we have used those before, but feeding them was tricky. So he puts you on this elevator. He gets on with the guards and Huntkin, and the elevator starts to descend as well. Now, another thing to bear in mind, these elevators, I noticed, or you should notice, we didn't control them going up or down, did we? They just arrived. They're all on timers, so even if the prisoners were to escape, they'd have to wait for the elevators to operate. And they only operate if we say they should operate. So it's really not likely that anyone is going to escape from here at all. You have nothing to fear. As the elevator slowly starts to descend. Back to the three of you, so Seket, Adru'sai, and Jorik. You are taken through one more of these security doors and then into an area that is completely different from the rest of the facility that you've seen so far. Instead of the mottled grey stone walls and these weird circular portals, you now are stepping into this very opulent, very light-colored space. Lots of light wooden features have been added, pine to illuminate the area. There's actually a garden that's been grown up here, and you can see that the facility extends above you because you took an elevator. Well, you took the journey from the ship here. You can see the facility is above you by another 2 stories, but in the center of this has been a big well, a light well that's been cast, and that opens up the space down here. And there's a garden, there's a water feature. It's very tranquil, very very calming. And as the warden takes you across that garden area, you actually can't see any of the actual prison facility itself. And you get to a door, which he opens the conventional kind of way. He leads you in. And it's as if you were inside a very opulent, well-appointed house in the middle of Howden Lee, for example. Nice carpets, tapestries, paintings. The only thing that's missing are the lead windows looking out onto the murky streets below. It really is just a self-contained space. He leads you into a very nice den, points to some chairs. Make yourselves at home. I will attend with this matter. I tried to dissuade your captain from joining the doctor when he arrived. The Dr. Vox arrived, I should say. He's prone to a certain amount of drinking, and that can lead to misdiagnoses. That's why I wanted to prevent your captain from wasting his time, but, well...
Oh, well, he's always so eager to help. I find it's best to indulge him on that.
Yes.
I'm sure he'll not make any mixed diagnoses himself.
Well, perhaps that will alleviate this entire situation. I assure you, you have nothing to fear. Knaxa prison is the most secure facility on all of Brexia. We have never had anyone escaping from the facility officially, so You have nothing to worry about here. You are
Officially?
completely safe. There is very, very little chance that these gnomes will do anything significant. Now, if
So
you
just and unofficially, has anyone escaped the island?
unofficially, the system is periodically tested by operatives from the Order. And there was one operative who, with significant inside knowledge and help, managed to make it all the way to the tower at which you arrived. But that operative is no longer with us. And the way they managed to escape remains to this day a mystery. And so is chalked down to basically them cheating on the test itself.
And did you plug up the security holes that they showed you?
Well, they didn't. They managed to get to the tower, and then they left the Order.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yes, they...
That can be quite difficult to question them after that, can't it?
Yes. But as I said, he had significant insider information, significant help from everybody on both sides, including Order members, as we were trying to test and break the system. So there was a lot of pre-planning that went into it that you had access to before attempting his escape. So that's why we don't count it as an official escape. The guards were not as vigilant as they are now.
Right. That's reassuring.
You'll excuse me, I need to go and sort out this problem.
Can I ask before you go, is there any kind of library here, or any kind of logs of the place? I mean, just to have something to read while we wait.
For crying out loud.
I'm just asking. What do you want me to do? Get in trouble? Do you want me not in a library where you can keep track of me? Honestly?
Okay, let's stick her in the library. At least we'll know where she is, as they are.
Matter of fact, the library has one of the largest collections of criminal literature anywhere in the world.
She's very happy in there. She made friends with a lawyer in the Drow Republic.
Oh, he was so nice.
I wasn't
Jorik walks up and finds a nice high-back chair and sits down.
Nonetheless, this is literature written by the inmates, so you should not believe anything that has been written.
Really?
It is all the ramblings of lunatics, murderers, and madmen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, of course. Once you've done a crime, you can never be trusted again.
Well, yeah, quite right. Now, that is one floor up. You'll find access from this staircase here. Something to bear in mind, you're in what we call the administrative block. The only way in or out is either through the door you came in with me, and your hand symbols will allow you access to that, or through the infirmary, which you will require to go through several doors between here and there. It also has direct access to the corridors that we use to get back to your ship. I would request you don't leave without letting me know, at least. It will prevent us from having a wild search for missing members of the Order. But I just wish to let you know that's the layout.
I'm sure we can keep you informed.
There are also speaking horns in all of the primary rooms, so you shouldn't have any difficulty accessing them. There are no speaking horns that link directly to the cells or to the lower levels of the maximum security prison, so you can't access that. It's a security measure more than anything else. But, they work exactly the same as they would on one of your ships.
And if we would like to order a quick snack before you go, I mean, before our meal this evening, where can we get that from?
Head through that door over there, he says, pointing to a large wooden door. On the other side, you'll find is the officers' mess. There's a canteen in there. And I believe you're the ones who are supplying our new cook.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Rather fortunate.
Excellent cook.
Oh, will this be our last meal with him? That's a bit sad.
Why, are you planning on executing him?
No, but we're planning to leave him here.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes, I see what you mean. Yes, his last meal, yes. Well, nonetheless, we will all be relieved to have him take a position in our kitchen staff. We have been without a chef for a while. And the juniors are not very good at keeping up. Now, if you will excuse me, I will return shortly.
Good luck.
Con, would you give me an initiative check, please?
All right then. Oh, for crying out loud. If it's going to be one of those days, that's 5.
Yes. It would appear to be... Oh, God. All right. Okay, give me a dexterity saving throw, if you please.
Starters, you mean to go on? 17.
17, right. So you are standing sort of looking at the guard and then looking at the gnome and kind of looking at where the doctor went. And the gnome is holding his hands up and he says, I don't pose you any problems or any stress or anything at all. There are some others that are quite sick, though. They've been vomiting everywhere. Do you want me to show you?
Yes.
He just spews this bile all over the guard standing in front of you. You manage to throw yourself aside and get out of the way just before it splashes all over you. The guard who's holding his spear screams and rips at his face and at his skin, and you can see that it's bubbling and boiling as if it's acid that is literally eating all over him. And this noxious smell of a very chlorine-like aroma kicks in, and yes, this whole room starts to smell like that as this gnome just continues to disgorge this bile all over the poor officer, who's now dropped to his knees. Yeah, he needs a bucket, right? Yes, so that's what you're seeing. The guard is not reacting, except for trying to rip his own skin off because it's on fire. What are you doing?
Are there any decent-sized water containers within sight and reach?
Water containers. There are 2 large buckets, but they're full of sand.
Kick out the sand and create water within them.
All right, you chuck out the sand. That's easy enough. You cast create
Whilst
water.
shouting for help.
Help!
More guards, please.
All right, so yes, absolutely. So that. Oh wow, my dice is rolling 2 and then 20, 2 and then 20. It's very interesting. Anyway, all right. So yes, absolutely. That's what you're doing. You throwing out that water. You can hear running feet behind you from the 2 guards at the last doorway that you passed. They're coming to
I'm sort of shouting instructions as I work, and then I obviously will have to stop shouting instructions when I cast the spell itself.
Right,
but,
right.
Along the lines of, get pole arms, keep them at bay, push it back into the cells.
You hear one of them shouting, that's a problem, sir. And
don't give me problems, give me solutions.
Yes, that's your turn. So it started a new turn. That gnome now steps forward. He steps into his own sludge that the guard captain is now basically dissolved into. He's stopped moaning. He's now just lying there slowly cooking. And you can see that the gnome's feet are taking damage, but it doesn't seem to care in the slightest. And it simply steps forward and says, I can smell it on you. You will die. And then it launches itself at you with these little hands. It just sort of starts running at you, about to attack you. So it hits an armor class of 15.
I believe that is enough to get me.
All right. So what this little creature does, which is perhaps alarming, is that it just runs straight at you. And as it gets about 3 foot away, it leaps up into the air and reaches out for you. and it kind of grapples you on the chest, and it just starts biting at your leather armor and trying to get through, whilst at the same time its fingers are kind of digging in underneath your breastplate strap as it's trying to rip your armor off. And its feet, which are coated in that sort of bile, are busy kicking against your stomach, trying to use its own weight to pull you down. And bits of that acid is splashing everywhere, and you take 4 points of damage from that.
Okay, this is rapidly degenerating into a horror nightmare.
Right. You have your buckets of water.
Well, yeah, but by your description, it sounds like the guard is actually dead. Is he?
He's just lying in this bile, smoking. He's not moving anymore. He was kind of screaming and sort of pulling at his face, but after a while, the screaming stopped and he just slumped down after 3 seconds.
Oui. Well, I don't know. I mean, mechanically speaking, what would chucking the buckets at him anyway cost me? Move action, an action? Or...
probably just a move action. Actually, not even that. It's just you just kick the buckets over, unless you're aiming very specifically for something.
Well, I'm just trying to slosh the water over the guard, basically.
Right.
I guess I'll kick the buckets over.
Action. Yeah, you sort of chuck him, and then you have this gnome on your chest who's busy trying to rip your breastplate.
And my response to that, I think, is going to have to be barkskin.
Right. Right, you cast barkskin on yourself. Okay. That's not a problem. You start to harden as your skin flakes and turns brown, I suppose. I don't know what kind of
on the aspect of bark, basically.
Right,
yes,
absolutely.
Bark.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's what's happening there. Back to you, Blaxton. The elevator comes to a stop as you arrive at the lower level, and he places his hand on one of the doors, and the guard next to him places his hand on the other side of the door, and the door opens up. It takes two to tango, so they say. All right, you, come on, let's move it. He says as Huntkin is sort of pushed through, you're moving through with him. And this is perhaps the strangest of the spaces. It's almost completely dark. Absolutely dark. And what the captain does is he hands you this pair of goggles. You're going to have to wear these, I'm afraid. Nothing demotivates a spirit quite like complete and utter darkness, eh, what? Very difficult to plan an escape when you can't see what's going on. All right, so donning these glasses, as soon as you put them on, you realize there must be some kind of fungus or algae inside the glasses, which just illuminates the corridor in front of you. And it's a very simple, straight corridor. And rather unnervingly, on either side are these large metal doors, which have a series of bolts across them, and then a big arm is over each door as well. So even if you could get the bolts open, the doors are still held in place by these arms. And he leads you along, and he taps the floor, and he says, I hope you notice there's no grates, there's no sewer system down here. We're even below the sewer system of the prison above us. That's how far down we are. All of the refuse that our wonderful prisoners generate is actually taken up by the elevator every morning. So there's no sewer system to get your escape happening. It's all very self-contained. Now, are you satisfied that the prison is secure enough? All right. Well, there's one more trick up our sleeves, he says, and he's walking down the corridor, and every now and again he stops, and you can see he places his hand against the wall, and there's a sigil on that wall. If a hand doesn't touch that every 10 minutes, you know what happens to this facility?
It explodes. No, I don't.
You're almost right. Not as dramatic as that. There have been some times where guards have fallen lax in their duties, but no, the elevator stops working and it requires manual reactivation by the engineers. Effectively, the elevator seals at the top of the shaft, so if they do manage to take the lower area by some miracle, if they've killed all the guards, there's no way that elevator's coming down to fetch them. So they're completely isolated down here. He then stops at a door which has all the bolts and things moved aside. The door is open and you can see this 15-foot by 15-foot room inside. There is a very simple, it looks like a sort of a straw bed. There's no blanket, there's nothing like that. The temperature down here is actually quite warm, and Hunkin is pushed inside of it. And you can see Captain Benteen, he takes his truncheon and he runs this metal cable to the wall just to near one of those glyphs. And he connects it into the wall and the truncheon immediately illuminates in this green energy. And he looks at Hunkin and he says, now, if you're going to try anything, this is the most dangerous time, Captain Blaxton. So I suggest you stand at the ready. If he's going to try and break out, usually it's this time. It's the most vulnerable of all. But we've done this so many times, it's not even funny. And Hunkin is standing there still bound in chains, and the captain takes the truncheon and basically slaps it against the Graith's stomach. And this discharge of electricity causes the Graith to double down, wincing in pain. And as he does that, the two guards on either side unclip the chains from his neck and from his wrists and step out of the room, leaving the warden to kind of face off between the Graith and the outside. And then the warden takes 2 steps back and the door is slammed shut and then bolted and then blocked off. Right. So that is prisoner incarceration and maximum security. Don't worry. It would be barbaric if we were to leave them in here all this time unattended. So I'll show you the second part of our security, just to put your mind completely at ease, unless, of course, you've had enough and you're ready to go up and forget about this horrid place and everything that's in it. No? All right. We'll take you on the second side, where we show you how nice we are to the inmates that are here. You'd be
Blaxton
surprised.
Stoneface Rose.
Right. All right. So that's what's happening there. Adru'sai, they climb up the stairs and see this library. Now, the library is not what you were hoping for. It is not a well-catalogued collection of books. It's piles and piles of paper stacked up everywhere. Some of the stacks have fallen over and you can see the pages have kind of slid together. It's basically just a musty old storeroom where they basically dump these documents that have been written by anybody of importance. You can see one side of the room has got these shelves on it. And once somebody cared and put them into like these binders. But maybe 100 years ago, you can see the binders have fallen over and no one cared. They started to stack binders in front of the shelves, and then they just forgot about the binders and they were just putting pages down. And a casual glance, the top page, one is a report from the warden, which is a prisoner report, and it lists the prisoners. There are 28 of them in the facility. There's a note written in this particular one that another is expected. You assume that's the Hunkin that you brought. You walk over to another pile, you pick that up. It looks like the Ravings of a Madman. It's written in common, and all it's saying is, I must get out, I must get out, I must get out, I must get out, I must get out. And it's just repeated over and over and over again. And you can see that there's got to be 60 pages of just that going down, written on both sides of this journal of this person. So that's the room you find yourself in.
Well, old Knaxa in no play makes the prisoner a sad boy or something. I don't know. The paper that I saw, it looked like was it dated? Was it looked like it was something very recent?
The report or the I must get out? The report.
No, the report.
It was dated 2 days ago.
All right. So there are how many prisoners did it say there were?
28.
28. All right. Plus, once again, then that's good to know. Since these binders that were like in the shelf and on top of the shelf, how long ago are they from? If I sort of open one up and check it.
You sort of lift one open and it's covered in dust. Nobody. Yes. Clouds of dust everywhere. And you open it out, and this one is from about 180 years ago. And the penmanship is absolutely beautiful. And it seems to be this journal of a 14-year-old girl. And it talks about the date is written out quite neatly. Excuse me. And then it says, "Dear Diary, today I went for a walk with Pony, and we had an absolutely wonderful time. We were walking through these hills, and we saw this rabbit, and then we found this hunter, and the hunter was looking for wolves in the area. How much further do you want to keep going?"
I kind of want to keep going until I know what this is. Like, is this someone making up stories, or is this from someone before this was a prison? Or
Right, so you sort of skip ahead and stop at the paragraph where the hunter is now raping the author of the book.
Okay.
And using the wolf's carcass for a sort of a bloody mess that the entire rape is happening in. The little girl, by the end of the paragraph, gets ripped in half, and her warm entrails are consumed by her rapist. And then page 2 starts with, "Dear Diary, I had such a lovely day today. I went swimming." And you skip some pages. Yep. She
Okay, let's
by
read
the dolphin.
something else.
Okay, next.
Okay, this is crazy people stuff.
Right, absolutely. So that's what you're discovering. Saket,
Yay!
Jorik, what are you doing? You're sitting in the chair, very comfortable,
Yes.
very well-appointed chair.
You can actually, there's only Saket in the room, but
Right.
you can probably hear Jorik is breathing a little bit heavier than usual. But other than that, he's just sitting in the chair, taking long breaths.
Saket, what are you doing?
Well, she's Saket's eating.
Oh, that's right. You went to
Light
the
snack.
canteen. Absolutely. So you walked into the canteen, which is adjacent to the administrative space, and it's a fairly well-appointed canteen, very neat, very orderly, nicely laid out, wooden benches. There's a large section at the back which is operated, and there's this ancient old woman standing there with a great big cigarette hanging out the corner of her mouth as she's busy sort of stirring. It looks like grey brains as you approach, until you realise that it's actually scrambled egg, which is just very watery, very runny, and somehow lost all of its colour. And
Right.
she looks up at you.
Hi.
Yes.
I ate way too much sugar on board, and I could really do with counteracting it. So, have you got any like plain stuff that I can add stuff to? I mean, that looks lovely and everything, but it's not my cup of tea. So, can I just borrow some utensils and some food from over there? And I don't need to bother you. I'll just make myself something quick.
No one's allowed in my kitchens.
Oh, right.
There's eggs, there's toast, there's tea. If you want more, you can put in a request and I'll try and make it for you by tonight.
Well,
But I'm very busy right now.
Oh. Are you any good with phyllo pastry?
Oh, as a matter of fact, that's my speciality.
Really?
She goes over to this toast, which was obviously toasted this morning. It's cold now. She takes it in one hand. She takes a slop of egg in the other, which she slaps onto the toast, and she breaks the toast in half and then hands it to you.
Ooh,
I call it egg in a roll phyllo pastry.
right.
It goes awful nice with
Tea?
oh no, we don't call it tea here.
Chai?
We call it le drinker le toffs.
Oh, God. Look, I just really wanted a phyllo pastry with some sweet corn and feta in it, but if that's
Maybe
too...
you shouldn't have come to a maximum prison security facility.
I believe one of our ex-colleagues is coming to join you. He's very, very good, and he would help you make the phyllo pastry for me.
I'm really excited to have him in. We haven't had anyone who's got a good skill at cleaning my pots and pans.
I think I'm going to just back out of the kitchen now.
I don't think you could have cut her deeper.
Caps off. All right, so you're backing into the room where there's a heavy breather. Going on. Back to you, Con, as you've got this gnome wrestling with your breastplate, trying to strip you of it.
How large of a space am I in?
At the moment, the infirmary, so you're in it's 40 foot by 40 foot quite easily, with several doors leading off of it.
Right. Well, in that case, I'm going to suddenly become surrounded by silvery mist and teleport 30 feet away from my current position. Hopefully, this leaves behind the gnome.
The gnome does indeed land on the floor as you shoot from one side to the other. You can see the guards that came running. They have a problem. Those truncheons of theirs are on those cables, and they're at maximum length now. So they're standing there ready to discharge, but they can't really get a clear shot into this particular room. It was never been seen as a point of danger. The corridor is the exit point, and this is just an antechamber between the infirmary and, well, the rest of the administration building. So they're kind of looking at you going, did you get it, sir?
Can they not see it?
No, because of the way that the corridor is built with these circular doors, the gnome is hidden behind one of the curves of this circular door.
Shut the door.
Right, you are, sir.
And shut the door.
What?
Come in and shut the door.
They put their batons down, and we don't have length, sir. And they step through the circular archway. They see the boiling mess. The one guard immediately throws up and is just completely lost.
That Misty Step was a bonus action.
Right.
Now, my next question, because I'm not sure, mechanically, if you cast a spell as a bonus action, can you then cast another spell as
Just cantrips.
Just cantrips. Right, fine. So that excludes that. Now, where is the way back to the prisons where this gnome came from?
So the room that you're in, there's that circular portal that you came through. That's from the admin side. Then on the one side of the walls, on the right-hand side, if you like, there is a set of barred gates, and that leads eventually to the prison, but not immediately. And then on the left-hand side is another circular portal, which is where the doctor ran into, saying he just needed to get something from his offices. And then the walls directly in front of you has got this nice little chart that shows you all about a healthy prisoner.
Yeah, great. So trying not to step in acid puddles, using my staff, I'm going to try and herd the gnome back towards the prison. presumably somewhere there I can find a cell to lock it in.
Right. You can also see at the other end of the barred gate, so there's a block of about 20 foot between the two sets of bars. At the other side, there are two guards standing there looking back at you as well. But again, their distance is restricted by that cable. So they're kind of watching you going, we've asked for the warden to send assistance, but it'll take some time to unlock the armory. Will you be all right?
I have no bloody idea. Are there any more like this?
Well, none that we've seen, sir. Shouts
Where are
one.
the rest of the gnomish prisoners? Where are the rest of the ill?
Oh, we're going to find you now. We're going to find you. We're going to find you now, shouts the gnome as he starts running towards you.
Fantastic.
So, yes, would you give me an intelligence check, if you please, to try and herd the gnome?
14.
Yeah, the gnome is so fixated on you. As you rotate round, he naturally starts to rotate around with you. He's not focusing on anything else going on around him. He's just focused on you and getting to you. So that's your actions as you do that. He then literally will run across the room and launch himself at you again, baring his teeth. Yeah. Oh, natural 1. So he comes rushing forward, and he was going to step on the body in the middle of the room that he had melted previously and launch himself at you. But what happens is, as he steps on the person's ribcage, his foot just punctures straight through, and that ribcage acts as a trap. So he kind of falls down to the ground right in front of you. You get an attack of opportunity against him with your staff.
The things I've seen.
Oh, yes.
Come on, nothing tops the half ogres.
So my staff glows green. Oh. That would be 25 to attack.
Oh, that's definitely a hit. 2 damage.
D8. Ooh, 9.
All right. You whack that gnome on the back of his head, and give me a medicine check, please.
17.
17. All right. So as you whack him across the back of the head, you don't do a huge amount of damage, but you do manage to split the skin, and you realize that his blood is green. Gnomish blood is not traditionally green. Gnomish blood is traditionally a sort of a pinky color. It's a lot pinker than human blood, but it's not definitely, in your experience, green. There are a few races that have green blood. Mostly it's the elves, but then it's a very light lime green color. It's not this sort of, this looks like an olive color that is oozing from that particular wound. Back to the top of the round, so that's you. The one guard is throwing up, is completely debilitated. The other guard is standing there saying, what do you want me to do, sir?
I need you to go and find my companions. Tell them what is going on.
He rushes over to the speaker horn, and he uncaps the speaker horn, and he leans into it, and he goes, I need everybody to get... Give me a perception check, Con.
Honestly, I can't get to the staff. 9.
9, okay. As he's talking, the pipes that he's talking in kind of clang and bang a little bit. And the next minute, this spray of stuff just pours out of that horn. And he looks up at you in terror, yes, as the lower half of his jaw has now melted away, and shock immediately kicks in, and he just falls over to the ground as more of this stuff pours out of the speaking horn. The three of you, Saket, you're kind of backing away from the kitchen, and next to all of the doors are these speaking horns. Now, they've all got corks in them, because unless you're being called, there's no point. Yours with the cork... There's a banging on the pipe, but that's about it. There's nothing else that happens. Jorik, there's a speaker horn near you, again corked. There's a banging, and the next minute that cork pops out. Would you please give me a reflex saving throw?
Yep. 21.
Something puts you on edge. You're not sure what exactly. And as this cork pops out, you duck and throw yourself off the chair, which is lucky because out of that sprays the same liquid, which splashes onto the back of that chair that you're on. And you can see it starts to burn through the leather of the chair quite horridly, as a matter of fact. Until it comes to a stop. Adru'sai, yours speaker horn kind of bangs a little bit, and that's it.
I'm good. I figure it happens in these old buildings sometimes. I'm busy.
Random banging.
Yeah, it happens. Old building.
I shout to Saket to get away from the speaker horns. Get away from the horns. The horns.
What?
And then I crawl away on the floor, away from this thing.
What's going on?
I have no idea.
Oh.
All right. So
It's vomiting at me.
It's vomiting at you?
Well, look at it.
you see this sort of
It's what I
dribble.
told you.
There's a liquid that's oozing out of the brass horn.
That's not normal, is it? I mean, I hadn't seen that before. Have you seen that before? Because I didn't even know they could do that. Did you know they could do that? Wait a minute.
I'm
That
pretty
is-
sure it's something on the other side.
What is it on the floor? Are you... We need to experiment. Have you got a piece of wood anywhere?
Yeah, the chair.
Yes, there's the remains
Chair?
of the chair. The wooden frame is still intact. The leather of the chair is completely melted through.
Huh. Seems to be slightly... Okay, I'm going to get what I can of a leg or a...
Sure, there's plenty of it on the chair.
and push it into the liquid to see what happens.
Doesn't seem to have too much effect.
Interesting. So the corrosive effects seem to happen on initial... Interesting.
All right, I'll
And-
leave you there. Yeah. Sorry, and?
And I was going to ask Jorik, like, what did you observe as it came out of the tube?
The underside of
Floor.
that table. Yes, the floor, right? All right, so Blaxton, you've been taken back to the elevator, and there is this horrid wait as everyone sort of stands there awkwardly waiting for the elevator to arrive. Eventually it does. You get onto it, and it rises up one floor, and as it's about to pass a doorway, the captain puts his hand on the glyph and the elevator stops. And the doorway opens and he steps out. And what you realize is this is now a level that sits on top of those cells. And when you look down, again, it's complete darkness. So again, you're wearing those goggles. As you look down, you can see into each of the cells that are here. And it's a block of 9 cells on the outside. And then there's an internal walkway. And then there are 4 cells in the middle. And each cell is about 15 square feet, give or take. And looking down, you realize that it must be a glass of some kind that you're standing on. And he looks at you and he says, "We can observe them from here. So even if they're trying to do something silly, we can watch them." Now, that's just one of the reasons for darkness. But I hear you say, what about the creatures that are accustomed to low light and to the darkness? Well, we've accommodated for them as well. We've managed to figure out a way that even if you were to look up from inside the cell and you could see in the dark, you'd only see your own reflection coming back. It's something to do with mercury, or I think it's mercury. Is it mercury? Some kind of liquid silver that the gnomes have applied to the underside of the glass. We can see through, but they can't see us. They also can't hear us, so we can observe, we can watch. And he takes you over to the central 4 cells, and he points down at them. These are the most dangerous criminals in all of Braxia. I hear you asking the question, why didn't we just execute them? Well, that one's a vampire, and he's under the protection of the 8 Dark Dukes. We're not entirely sure what his story is, but they don't want him dead, but they certainly don't want him anywhere else either. And we did find him in possession of a dragon artifact. So, well, we couldn't execute him because, well, let's just say the Dukes contribute significantly to the running of this facility, and they asked for him to be kept here. So well, you know how things go, discretion and all that sort of thing. That one over there is Lich. He's actually been here for quite some time. Rumor has it that he was here before we even took over the facility. Anyway, so yeah, he's been here for a long time. Can't get rid of him, can't not get rid of him. The problem is if he dies, he returns to his phylactery and returns. And we don't know where his phylactery is. So he stays here now with us forever. Such a sad story. This one over here, we're not entirely sure what he is, but he's stuck here. And we're not letting him out. When you look down, all you see is for a moment there's this black, shadowy figure. It looks vaguely humanoid, but there's a certain sort of bestial shape to it. And then it flickers, and then it's on the other side of its cell. And then it flickers again, and then it's on the other side of its cell. And it flickers again, and it's in the middle of the cell. Very dangerous little creature, that. So yes, we won't be letting that one out. And then, of course, the final one, he points down, is just this man sitting in the middle of the room. A human. That one, don't know. He's just basically always been here. We couldn't get him out when we arrived, and so we kind of just keep it going. Warden's never mentioned anything other than keep him there. So we call him John. We don't have anything else to call him. And so that's that. Food now, you ask. Yes, it's a good question, food, isn't it? Well, if you notice here, here, and here, he points to 4 depressions in the glass floor. The surface is just thin enough that our priests who come through every morning can place their hand there and they can create food right inside the cell. So there's really no ways that these guys are going to escape. Of course, the vampire and the lich don't get fed, do they? We don't need to feed them. That's the beauty of these 4. The outer 9, of course, they're not as exciting, they're not as interesting. But if we can keep these here for hundreds or so, well, in the one case, 300 years, well, more actually, we don't know how long it was here before we got there. But if we can keep them incarcerated for that long, your little friend there, one little Graith, we really don't have to worry about it. Now,
You don't get much visitors, do you?
well, now that you say that, no, we don't get a lot of visitors, as a matter of fact.
Because you have an offensive need to talk all the time.
Well, I'm making up for the fact that you don't talk. I mean, if you were talking, then it would be a two-way conversation, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Yes. Yes. So that's lower level facilities. Yes. Now, I can show you minimum security, but that's not very exciting, really. No. All right. No. Yes. No, it's not. Yes. No. I mean, no. Right. Let's go. You ready to go?
Yes.
Good. Right.
Blaxton's like, get me out.
All right. So
Plot twist. He was the one who wrote that document. They said, "Look, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here." It's Blaxton's internal.
It's actually Blaxton of the past or the future. Ooh, who knows?
Yes.
All right. Anyway, okay, back to you, Con. There's this demented gnome still standing there. He's hissing at you.
Well, yeah. When I see the what comes out of the speaking tubes, I start to sort of rapid reassessment of the situation. And now I'm just going to try and knock this gnome probably dead.
Just knock him dead, yeah.
Just kill it. Because obviously things are clearly getting out of control. I don't have time to try and save this gnome from whatever the fuck is going on. He's just going to have to die.
All right.
Because it looks like he's going to anyway, really.
Right.
So I swing my glowing green staff at him, and that is a colossal 26.
Oh, that's a hit. That's a hit to your damage.
Ooh, and that's 12.
Oh.
Max damage.
Ow.
You smash him on the side of the face and more flesh kind of rips away. You're getting this distinct impression that the flesh has putrefied on the outside, as a matter of fact. And it's really only just held on there by
Yeah.
sort of the stickiness, I suppose, of the interstitial tissue. But
Oh, nope.
Yeah. As you do so, revealing underneath is this very green, scaly skin that speaks to perhaps that green blood that you saw before. And
does this look anything like that Graith paw I saw?
the scales are similar.
Sitting in a box in my infirmary.
It's been fermenting in the box in your infirmary.
Actually, I can't remember if we handed it over or not.
I think we handed it over to the Archon.
We did,
yeah.
Yes.
So it looks very similar. Those scales look very, very similar. Yes, absolutely. Correct. So the gnome is about ready to launch when the warden steps through the portal, and he basically points his hand at the gnome and this ring that he has, which looks like a pair of bat wings or some very segmented wings with leather in between them that hold this very, very black gem. Lights up brilliantly with a sort of blue energy, and that fires out at the gnome. And he hit the gnome. It catches the gnome square on in the chest. It doesn't do a lot of damage, considering what it could do. But
it's holding back. It's holding back.
Right, he's holding back. Yeah. It smacks the gnome sideways, leaving this sort of burnt-off side. And the gnome kind of stands up and says, "And we're coming for you, especially, Warden." And the warden looks quite pale at this point as he's getting ready to blast this ring again. The gnome no longer is going after you now. The gnome is now running towards the warden. And you can hear as the gnome is sort of dashing across the room, there's this gurgling sound coming from its stomach area.
Warden, be careful! The vomit!
What? Says the warden, looking at you.
Protect our vomit!
The gnome stops and just opens up his mouth. And now that you're standing behind the gnome, you can see that it actually isn't vomit. It's more like gas. But the gas, that's that chlorine smell that you smell. The gas, part of the ejector that's coming out of this gnome are bits of internal organ. It looks like shredded larynx. It's as if he is destroying his own internal organs. And those are basically just being puked out at the same time as this gas is being released. The warden, with your warning, has advantage, which kind of helps. It kind of helps. He kind of throws himself to the side, but it splashes over his shoulder. And he cries out in pain, collapses to the side, clutching his burning arm, burning shoulder, I should say, that has got this chlorine gas busy dissolving into it and burning it away. Back to you. What are you doing?
Again, going to try and disable this, put this gnome out of action, kill it if it's necessary. It's clearly no longer whoever it used to be.
Right.
15 to attack.
That's a hit.
Hopefully. For 11 damage.
11 damage. Okay. So you just drive that staff into the back of its neck and catch it on point and snap the spine of this thing, and it drops immediately to the floor, unmoving, and sort of lies in the sludge. You realize now that the sludge has become inert as well. It's no longer bubbling or boiling or burning anything. But the warden is lying there with his wound, clutching that, and the two guards are standing next to him, looking pathetically from him to you. And the doctor comes staggering out of the circular portal and looks around, and he says, "Oh my God, what's happened here?"
Where the hell have you been?
I was sorting out issues.
Did you not hear any of this?
I thought it was, no. He says,
Competence. We need to seal off whatever part of the prison you're keeping the infected. Completely. Actually, that may not even be necessary. How the hell are they projectile vomiting through the speaking tubes?
What? He looks over at one of the speaking tubes and takes half a step back. The cork in this one is still there because the cork...
Where are the rest of the prisoners? Where are the rest of the infected right now? Where did you leave them?
We haven't gathered them up yet. They were just reporting that they were... It was all happening around the engine room.
The what?
The engine room.
The prison has an engine?
How do you think this prison operates? The warden rolls over onto the shop. Doctors, we needn't go much further into this. I understand your panic, Dr. Con.
There's no panic. Your facility is compromised. These things are able to squirt acid out of the speaking tube system.
That is a problem, yes. Absolutely.
Oh, shit.
Now is not the time to consult with Dr. Vox. Doctor, I suggest you go and sit back in your infirmary and await instructions. He looks back at you. Now, Dr. Con, if you wouldn't mind, and he gets helped up by the two prison guards. I need to get back to my office. We'll know exactly what's going on when I get back there. Until such time, we can't use the talking tubes. So he turns to the one guard. I want you to run the length of the corridors and tell everybody to lock down everything. No one goes anywhere. No one does anything, all right? The guard kind of nods.
We can't assume the prisoners will stay in their cells. This stuff is highly corrosive. As you've seen.
Do you think that there's multiple gnomes infected? We only have 6 on station.
Well, when we arrived, the impression I was given by you and your doctor was that more than one gnome was sick. Is that not so?
Dr. Vox has reported that several of the gnomes had been feeling ill. Yes, that's correct.
If we only have 6, several could be 6, couldn't it?
When Dr. Vox gives us a diagnosis, we generally let things sit for a couple of days to see if a fever actually develops or not.
Well, that was clearly a mistake. We need to isolate this area of the prison. Wherever the gnomes are, they need to be isolated immediately. They cannot be allowed to get any further.
He turns to the other guard. All right, you head over to the engineering room. I want you to lock it down. Make sure no one can leave. That guard was the one who threw up. He kind of nods and he goes rushing off to those bars, places his hand, and the other guards start opening and closing the doors so he can move through. Doctor, it might be exciting now, but this is not going to go any further than this room, I assure you.
Right. Well, I think it would be useful if I could regroup with my fellow captains.
Absolutely. We'll get you back to the command center straight away. Back to the 3 of you. Adru'sai, you're in the library. What are you doing?
I want to look at it and try to find 2 different things. First of all, I want to try to find sort of official reports and like either very recent to sort of see if anything looks out of place, or I want to see if I find, like I'm looking through things I find. If I find anything about the last incident, the last time anything like this happened. And while I'm looking, I also want to keep an eye out for anything written in gnomish, or if I know, like, if it seems to be written by a gnome, however that looks.
All right, not a problem. So give me an investigate check, if you will.
Ooh. 18.
18.
18.
Okay. So what you find that sort of sticks out is about 3 months ago, the gnomes that are present in the station, they requested transfers. or rather there was a request for a transfer that had been sent through from Section 13 of the Gnome
Gnome
government.
gods.
Yes, there's a document at the back which you find, and you can kind of look at it and you go, right, so it's signed by this individual who just writes Section 13 at the bottom. And you can see it's got several of the deacons' notes that authorize this process. And it requests that the gnomes be rotationed out and replaced with 6 new recruits. And that request was approved. There's then a transport docket that indicates that these 6 gnomes arrived and have been operating ever since. And there's an extra note that's been attached from the warden. It's a handwritten note, which lists gnomes have requested some rather bizarre additions to the engine stores. Now, normally he doesn't pay them any attention whatsoever and he just passes them straight on, but there's extra chemicals and things that they've asked for that he's not entirely familiar with what they are, so he's written a letter to Section 13 to find out if this is routine or not, and he's attached to this whole pile of papers the response from Section 13, and the response is very simple. The request is classified.
Okay. Section 13 being the whole gnome research
It's
basically.
supposed to be secret too.
It is, yes.
Okay, so Section 13 are doing weird experiments in the gnome parts, possibly, or sending the gnomes here weird, strange, odd things.
Not the best place to experiment.
Or the best, I guess.
I mean, at it with these gnomes.
Yes.
Also, anything else? I'd also like to find, if possible, if it is here in the archives, a more detailed list of prisoners and crew, like who works here, like who are the prisoners.
Right. Okay, so you start looking for that type of document. Okay.
Yeah.
Saket, Jorik, what are you doing?
I get to my feet.
Where did Adru'sai go?
They're in the library, I think.
I'll go and find them. I think we need to have a chat with her. I mean, she may have... Didn't she go and look for books? I know she went to look for books. She may have found something in the books.
Up the staircase.
It's Adru'sai.
As I'm talking, I'm like walking and talking.
What did you think they're doing?
Of course they went looking for books. What do I do with this sludge? You're the smart person.
I wouldn't touch it. It's corrosive upon projectile. I mean, I need to do more experiment. Don't touch it. I'll be back in a minute.
Thanks, genius. I could figure that out on my own. All right.
All right. So, Saket, you go up to join Adru'sai upstairs. Jorik, you staying downstairs?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to try and see if I can find Con with telepathy.
What's the range?
120 feet. Though,
you can't.
rules-wise, I'm supposed to see them, but, Jorik doesn't know that.
You can't. You can't
right.
sense him, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's what you're doing. Blaxton, you're on the elevator going back up again. Captain Bentin looks at you. So I suppose that you get to deal with all sorts of interesting things whilst you're traveling around saving the planets.
Yes.
Right. Yes. Only, I think that sometimes that they forget that we're here. You know, the Order.
Yes, you do.
Yes. Yes. Is he really? I originally was on a 5-year tour here. And then I got extended to 10 years. I wouldn't complain. I wouldn't mind, but well, you've got a ship. You get to see the world, really. I mean, you must have been to all sorts of fantastic places.
Oh yes, recently somebody tried to take over my mind. It was gorgeous.
Trying to take over your mind. Ah, right. Well, thankfully, we don't have any of those here. That's not for us to worry about. The Tetracons worry about those kinds of criminals. Not sure what they do with them actually, but they don't bring them here anyway. We're not equipped for psychic kind of things. I suppose you could say that would be our only weakness. But the guards' minds here are like steel. They're all highly efficient, well-trained men that we source from. Well, no, we don't actually. We get them from the local village, which they're mainly fishermen, really. That's not something that we tell the prisoners as we bring them up. We've never had an escape, so we've never needed to bring anyone really. And the budget's been cut. Like, you can't believe. I mean, it's just slashed. It's like.
How long is this ride? Where are we up?
Oh, we're nearly there, he says as he looks up. Only about another 50 feet or so to go. Yeah, the warden's great. He's really about team building and he put the gardens in. Take you to the gardens if you like. You want to see the gardens?
Just bring me to my fellow captains.
Right. Yes.
Just get me out of here.
This guy's in desperate need of company.
Yes, I know.
So you get to the top of the shaft, and you move through the first door. You get to the second door. As you get to the second door, this young guard who looks as pale as a sheet comes rushing up, and he shouts, "There's been an escape! Everything's on lockdown. No one's to go anywhere."
I just look at the one. No escape. Got it.
What do you mean? There's been an escape?
I'm surprised.
And no one's going. No one's going anywhere. Well, that's a shame. He says, looking at you, Blaxton.
I just look at the wall and say, "Where's the weapons room? Since you disarmed me earlier."
Yes. So that's back at the warden's office.
That's where we're heading. Go.
But we've just got orders now that we're not supposed to go anywhere.
I just look at the young guard and say, like, "Lead me to the warden's office now."
He looks over at Captain Benteen. Benteen looks at you. He looks down at the shaft. He's like, "Well, if you go, I can't go with you. So then you won't have."
Yeah, then stay here. I don't give a fuck. Move.
Right. Yes. Okay. I'll guard the. I'll guard the Maximus.
Not the mist person. Do whatever.
Yes, he's actually a shadow person. He says as you're busy walking away with the guy who's been running everywhere. You want to go to the administration office, sir? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Absolutely.
To the armory, wherever it might be, and if it's on the bottom of the sea, I want to go there.
No, it's not. It's on the third floor. Right. I can't get you in though. Only the warden can. So armory or warden?
Can you think for your own move?
Okay, he says as he starts running down the corridor.
Best and brightest.
Yes, well,
I thought we were bad.
Budget cuts, you know how it is. So the warden is sort of limping along next to you. You must think this is awfully bad form to have happened.
The gnomish prisoners. How did they?
I don't think they're prisoners, right?
They're no
I
prisoners.
think they're prisoners.
Okay.
The
Gnomes are not prisoners. They work on the engine.
What? Oh.
Well, you must have gnomes that work on your ship's engines.
Yes, I just didn't realize that prisons had engines and therefore gnomes to work on them.
The whole of Knaxa requires a tremendous amount of magical power in order for the wards to stay and remain in place.
So what you're telling me is
to power that.
Yes, great. So make the leap with me here. The people responsible for maintaining and running the thing that keeps this entire prison running and operational and keeping all its dangerous prisoners in have all succumbed to some sort of strange, yes, as you've seen. So nobody who knows how to operate the engine is currently available.
Doctor, I can see that you are similar to Dr. Vox. Flights of fancy do not make a good captain. We don't know that it's all of the gnomes that have been infected. It might just have been this one case.
You are dangerously neglectful in your ability to cover all eventualities. I am not panicking. I am thinking ahead.
You will see when we get to my offices that everything is...
You have a destroy entire facility button in your office.
As a matter of fact, we don't. The contingency is based around the engine. We would have to trigger it from there. But,
what exactly is your contingency, Warden?
The prospect of a prison being overrun by the inmates is so negligible. Some of the greatest minds in the Order felt that there was no longer a need to maintain as large a presence as we have in the past.
Can I join another organization? the one with like competent people?
Yeah. We will have to discuss this later.
This facility is incredibly expensive to operate, Captain. And the Orders have proven less useful in the last decade than they have ever been. We have hunted all of the dragon worshippers and all of the artifacts.
Huh?
As someone who is directly involved in those activities, I can assure you that we are at no shortage of dragon conspirators out there trying to undermine the Order.
Yes.
And your lack of diligence is only making the problem worse.
I understand the stress is making you speak hard, Doctor. Your prisoner is the first prisoner that we have had in nearly 3 years.
Yes, because our Order likes to execute people.
Exactly.
I hope we are far close to your office, because I rather feel that we should be acting with a bit more alacrity.
He points at his burnt arm. I am going as fast as I can, Doctor. Now, if you'll have... He presses his hand against the wall and he leads you back into that atrium that leads to the study and that sort of thing. Your companions are this way. I assure you, you will find everything is still in order, he says as he steps through into the study to the melted chair.
Yes, it looks very much in order. How much of this facility do you think has been subjected to an acid spray?
The comm system runs throughout all of minimum security as well as the upper levels. But rest assured, maximum security does not have a comm system. It's completely an isolated system.
Well, that's good, isn't it? So the comm system for the entire facility is currently out of order.
What we've seen so far is out of order, yes. We don't know how far this extends yet, Doctor. Now, where are your companions? Oh, yes, I remember the one was hungry, but I will be in my offices. That door there, he points. I will check on the situation if you want to find your companions.
Yes, fine.
Very well. They're probably in the officer's mess or upstairs in the library. One of your companions was quite eager.
I see. Well, I guess I go for the mess. The mess is probably the closest door, so I pop my head through there first before I head to the library.
There's just this ancient old cook with a cigarette hanging out of her mouth. And she kind of looks at you and she says, "We're closed."
I look around to see if there's any sign that a speaking horn has disgorged acid.
No, there's just a corked one next to the doorway.
Do not use the speaking tubes until further notice. There has been a catastrophic failure and it's quite dangerous. Got it?
Aye, sir, she said.
Jolly good.
In that case, then you should know dinner's going to be late.
That's the least of our worries, Cook. Least of our worries. I head for the library.
All right, so you're going up to the library. Blaxton, your running man has decided, since you told him to think for himself, that the best thing to do would be to get rid of you. And to do that, he's going to take you straight to the warden's office.
Good.
So, yes, he rushes you through this garden area, which everyone else has been through, with this very delicate water feature. And into a room, you can see there's a chair that looks like it's been melted by this sort of horrid chemical. There's a strong sense of chlorine in the air, and you are then ushered through the side door. You can see the warden is sitting in his chair holding his arm. He's got some sort of gauze which he's put on it. He looks over at you. Our captain, has your prisoner been successfully installed?
Yes.
Good.
I need your hand.
My hand. Yes.
Yes.
You
Apparently, I need your hand.
have a look here, he says, and he stands up from behind his large oaken desk, and he steps over to this octagonal-shaped table, and he places his hand on a glyph, and the table suddenly illuminates with a diagram, it looks like, of the entire prison. But because of the way the magic's been shaped, you can see it's actually the prison in all 3 dimensions.
Right. Like a hologram?
Yeah, like a hologram. And he waves his hand through it, and he can rotate around it. And the hologram is sort of flickering on and off every now and again. And one of there's one area which is from where you are, on the farther side of the prison and to the left, basically. There is this, of the entire facility, which is detailed down to, you can see the actual piping that runs the comm system and all that kind of stuff. It all feeds into that one block. And that block has got no detail on it whatsoever. It is literally just a blank block.
Right. I mean, as a character, I don't know this, but as a player, this would be the engine room.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
I
don't know all the details yet, but...
Correct. He pointed that blank space and says, that is where our engine is kept. I'm not sure how much Captain Benteen informed you of this facility. But it is operated on by that engine. According to this...
I need weapons, and while we get weapons, you tell me what exactly happened and where my fellow captains are.
They're all in the library.
Right, weapons.
Yes.
And what happened? I mean, you don't need to rehash what happened.
Right, yes. So he tells you that part. What he adds is that that report indicates that power is failing from the engines.
Great. Anything specific, critical, powered by the magical energy produced by the engines?
The lighting system is based on that. The elevator shafts use that energy. And then there are certain doors that will either completely seal shut.
I'm more worried about your prison facility where I just come from.
No.
Or is that an isolated system?
It's isolated. It doesn't use magic. Correct.
Okay. Go.
Even the minimum security, as he's walking, even minimum security, the cell doors are still built out of steel. And the locks are still robust and sound. So there's no risk of any prisoners escaping. This is a...
Right. Except for those who can be freed by bile, perhaps?
There are 5 remaining gnomes that could possibly have been infected, but that has not yet been substantiated.
Right. We're going to find out as soon as I have a weapon again.
All right.
I know where the other captains are.
Okay, so Con, you arrive... Saket, you arrive in the library first to see Adru'sai busy reading reports, looking for lists. The only list that you found so far is... It's rather unusual. It's a list that the paper, when you picked it up at first around the edges, it actually crumbled. That's how old this paper is. And you realize it's not paper, it's vellum. And it literally crumbled in your fingers. So you realize that you cannot touch this page. And you've basically been spending the last 10 minutes playing a game of pickup sticks, where you've been very delicately picking up the pages that lay on top of this vellum. to reveal painstakingly slowly the contents of this list. And the list is written in a very old form of Elvish, to the point that you can read it, but there's some words here that have got some really weird ancient old expressions, and if it wasn't for your sort of scholarly background, you wouldn't sort of be able to make heads or tails of it. It's basically like trying to read modern day Shakespeare. It's English, but it's just different. And it's a list of the prisoners in maximum security. And it simply lists one creature, one thing. And the name, the entry, is just The Strange Man. That's all that's there. For now, and then you can see that there was another name that was there, and it's been scratched out. Something was in there, but it was scratched out. It looks like shadow or dark or you're not sure the actual translation of that. The first part, the second part's been actually scratched out completely. When you read the date on this vellum, which is at the bottom, it's a partial date, but it lists the date as the 31st of the 6th month in the year 4520.
And
you're in 350.
Okay. Do I know about there being some other...
Yes. The
Yes,
dragons
of course.
ruled for 5,000 years.
Okay. So these people have been here since the dragons.
Well, this piece of vellum was supposedly written at that time period.
Yes, I don't know who is there now. Okay, yeah, of course. Right. Yes.
It's at that point that Sekhet arrives.
Yes.
Hey!
Oh, hi, come and have a look at this. This is really interesting.
That's a really odd... I mean, I understand what it's saying, but nobody uses languages like that, and that's very...
I know! It's really cool, isn't it?
But
And
there's
look at
something
this, look at
even
this, look,
cooler
this.
happening downstairs.
Oh,
There's
wow,
acid
what?
coming out of the speaking tubes everywhere.
Really? Because I heard
No.
mine rattling earlier, but there wasn't anything coming out of it.
Well, I know, and I didn't even know the speaker tubes could do that.
Probably don't normally do that.
I have a feeling we probably need to go and investigate the puke coming out of the... Well, I don't know. It's not... I
Yes.
don't know. It's just acid coming out of the speaking
I
tube.
need to go to if they have an office, a warden's office or something with more current documents in it anyway.
I mean, does anyone even use... I mean, do you know how long it takes to make this stuff? I mean, Jesus, they have to cure the leather and then scrape
I
it.
know! This place is such a mess. I mean, if I had the time.
It's at that point that Jorik comes up the stairs, because Jorik, you said you went up to the library, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Where did you
No,
go?
you do.
I was standing around looking at the puke and trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to
I
do
thought
and
you
waiting
said
for
you
the
went
cat
up
to
to
come back.
No, but he disappeared when
He's
Gun
looking
was
for Con psychically.
Yes, all right. So you got bored and you...
I was trying to find Con. That's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, that's right. We'll go with that. So that's when you come up the stairs to find these two walking towards the stairs. All right. And I'm assuming you meet at the top of the stairs, and as you start to come down, that's when Con is coming up the stairs. And all four of you are at the top of the stair briefly. I don't know what you want to say to each other.
Ooh.
We have a problem.
But
There's an awkward pause.
Does it have to do with the acid in the speaking tubes?
because that's
Yes.
very cool. Oh, where did you see it?
Yeah, what
Coming
the
out
hell?
of a gnome.
Out of a gnome.
Yes, come with me to the warden's office. I'll explain on the way.
Yes. we
As you're all
need to
coming down the
explain that.
stairs, you come down the stairs, you look down, you see Blaxton and the warden coming out of the warden's office.
Blaxton?
Can we stop and discuss this?
Yeah, I mean, gnomes aren't supposed to puke. I've never known a gnome to puke acid.
I describe the scaly flesh beneath the flesh, and the fact that the gnome's projectile vomit this chemical noxious stuff. and that obviously there must be more than one infected, because we were fighting one when the speaking tubes started spraying their acid out.
And you will be happy to know that the engine room went black. So I'm on my way to get a weapon.
Splendid.
Wait, this
Well, I agree
prison
that
has an engine room?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
something must run the
There's an
elevator.
engine here.
Yes, and I do have some more
I'm not a
information about
magician,
that we should take in private.
So apparently
Yes.
the gnomes
Weapons
who-
first, then we go to engine room and solve this problem.
How big were those lizard men in the book, Jenny? Adru'sai.
How big was it? Was it
Is it gnome height or was it tall?
Guy? How big was it?
It was difficult for you to tell because when you were there, it felt as if it was just talking directly to you. And you're not sure if it was you as Adru'sai or you. Well, you assume it was you as Adru'sai.
Yes.
And it was talking to you at sort of face height. So it's about your height.
Yeah.
A little bit taller than
my
I am.
height, a little bit more. He had a big hat on, which might have confused things.
Right.
Well, you are kind of short.
Yorick, do you want a weapon
Not
too?
short. You people are
Yes,
just
thank you.
Okay.
All
then
right.
Follow me.
So you're all
I'm coming.
moving with the warden whilst the sort of conversation is trailing and
Yeah.
going along. He takes you back into that gardened area and walks up to this water feature, which is busy flowing, a very calming kind of effect. And he places his hand on one of the rocks, and the entire water feature moves sideways, revealing a
Bad case.
set of stairs going down. Yes, he sort of gestures down there, follow me, and he sort of leads the way down the stairs. And there's a very rudimentary corridor, same as you've seen before. Those
Right.
lights in the walls are now starting to flicker every now and again. So there's this on-off kind of thing. And when they all flicker off, pitch black. There's absolutely no light coming because there's no windows anyway. And there's a long corridor, and he starts walking down it. There's various doors on the left and right, and he dismisses them as stores and bits of old armor which no one would use anymore. You're welcome to try it if you wish. I'll get the guards all together once we've secured their stations. The comm system is our biggest problem, and we need to worry about getting that back up before anything else. Sending runners is inefficient. Eventually, you get to the end of the corridor. Sorry, Saket, you're going to say something.
No, it's all right. I'm just sort of like, but. I have more questions.
He
We have a
gets
lot of questions.
he gets to this large, very robust-looking door, and he takes his palm and he sticks his hand into his pocket and he pulls out this old-fashioned key, which he then slides into the lock and turns the lock and opens this very thick door. It looks like it's got lead in it. It's quite thick. And he points, he gestures, "Welcome to the Knaxa Armory," he says. Inside, there's a rack, and there are about 20 of these fairly long staves. They are very black in nature. They are reminiscent of a staff that you have recently seen before, as a matter of fact. They don't have any green amulets attached to them. They're just these long black staves. And so there's 20 of those. And then there's all the equipment. There's your weaponry that was taken from you. Any metal sort of swords and that sort of thing are there. That's.
So we didn't need him after all. Fucking liar.
Well, Saket's going to grab one of the staff and she's like, pow, 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 pow.
I would be very careful with that. That is a staff of.
I know, I have these in my, you could be like a guard. And Jorik, what's wrong with you?
Will you calm down, please?
I haven't got to play with one of these before. It's going to be cool.
I'm going to carefully
They're
take a
not
start.
playing.
Yes, exactly.
Is this some kind of shock weapon? What is this?
Yes, it discharges an electrical jolt, distance of about 20 feet, maybe 30 if you're lucky.
I'm going to borrow one if it's all right.
They're cool. I'm having one of these. Can I take it home with me afterwards?
No, they belong to the prisoner cause. And yes, let's just leave it at that.
Jorik picks up
Help me
his
carry
bow
several
and
of
spear.
them up. I will dispense them to the guards that need them.
I take my weapons too.
Yeah.
Right.
Without saying
Aside
anything,
from
Jorik
these-
just picks up his stuff and then takes as many staffs as I can carry.
Aside from these staves, are there any other weapons here?
That's it. We haven't
They're
had
not pointy, right? They're just like a walking stick that's black and shoots lightning bolts.
pretty much.
All right. Not really interested.
The charge is enough to debilitate every creature that's in the facility at the moment, apart from the ones that are in maximum security.
I'll take my weapons.
Is there any chance that the maximum security ones could be a danger if the engine goes down?
Absolutely none whatsoever. As a matter of fact, with the engine down, they become even less of a threat. The only access port to the lower maximum security facility is an elevator that will now automatically cease functioning.
Right, well, that's good. That's something.
Yes.
Always nice with a bit of good news in the middle of everything.
Okay, Warden, if I remember correctly, we need to take, and then I go through the way that I think I need to take to go to the engine room.
Yes, basically back up to the study that you were in, then through those bars, Con, that you saw before, and then it's basically a left along a fairly long corridor, then a right along a really long corridor of 400 feet, and then, in theory, the engine room should be on your left.
All right.
Never that simple, but
Before
alright.
we go there, can we just stop and have a moment of talk? Before we rush to the engine room?
But, yes.
What's on your mind,
Talk about-
Adru'sai?
Look, in private, with the
I will
director.
go up to my offices. I have plenty of things.
Yeah, well, you could stay. I mean, with the warden, if possible. I just don't think any of the guards should really be happy with this.
I think we're just with us right now,
Yeah,
anyway, right?
Yeah,
So we could talk in the armory.
yes.
Yeah. Look, I hold up the report I found about the gnome people. I found this, and do you think that possibly strange, like experimental, odd classified equipment from Sector 13 arriving at the engine room quite recently might have something to do with everything going weird now?
Why haven't you mentioned this?
No, they were trying.
I haven't mentioned a transfer of crew because it's fairly routine. The
And I mean, it is
have
says
such-
classified in rather large letters, so I understand if he doesn't bring it up immediately, but
The entire thing I was ordered to keep quiet. When it happened, it was... I have never heard of Section 13 before, and yet it's clearly stamped on the bottom of that order.
But you said that this kind of incident has happened once before. When did that happen, and what did you mean?
What do you mean by incident? No,
I don't know. You said that this
transferred out.
when
Jorik's-
you mentioned the sick people.
Jorik suddenly snaps and grabs the warden by the throat and pushes him up against the wall and says,
Whoa!
"Stop squirming!"
I am
Speak,
telling you
Jorik.
what- We're all on the same side here, Captain. I questioned the transfer of the gnomes off of my station. I questioned the Section 13. And I was reliably informed by Deacon Varda that it was all above board and quite acceptable.
All right.
It's gone loud.
As he says this, I put my hands on Yorik's shoulder and say, "Release him. We need to leave for these gnomes now. That is most important."
Deacon Varda was one of those who was.
I know,
Rex.
Vada.
All right. Okay. I released the warden.
Let's
Still
go.
looking really tense, though.
What is this? What has Deacon Varda got to do with this?
There's nothing.
You don't need to know.
classified. And I just run away.
I follow.
Make haste. We'll explain on the way.
Yeah.
All right, so you all start running as fast as you can towards the exit. You get to the base of the stairs that will lead up into the atrium, and all the lights go off.
Uh-oh.
Is it completely dark?
It is.
Shit.
It is really dark, except for this one shaft of very washed out grey light, which is penetrating down into the atrium.
So as this happens, I kind of look around, say like, anybody? Light?
Right.
Yes.
I'm trying to find something.
I
Put
dropped
it at the
the
end of my sword.
All right, so Sikhet, you casting light?
Yep.
All right, so Blaxton's sword now has this nodule of light on it. The light illuminates up.
I do the same with my spear.
All right.
I have a cantrip.
You suddenly hear this low background hammering, rattling, metal jarring vibration mixed with shouting that just reverberates around the entire facility.
Uh-oh.
Oh, good. Here we go.
Nothing to be alarmed about. The prisoners are very jumpy, and when lights go...
I'm running. I don't know if we can keep up with me, but I am.
Blaxton's got, I got the light, right, I'm going up the stairs. All right. And the warden is out of breath. He's out of shape too. So when he gets to the top of the stairs and he sees all of you running, he's like, I'll monitor everything from my offices and coordinate with my guards to make sure nothing leaves.
I turn around and I yell after him, we're going to have more questions for you when this is done! And I keep running.
Especially about some of the things. Never mind.
I've got a docket here. I've got a very strange form. Yeah, you couldn't bring the vellum with you, unfortunately. That's the only problem. Is it was
No, not the vellum.
Yeah, you couldn't have picked that up.
I didn't touch that.
Correct. All right. Absolutely. Yes, you are running down the corridor towards the infirmary to try and get to where you are, to that exit into the main facility. And you're running past these guards. They're all standing there. They're all panicking. They're sort of clustered. As you come running up, you see them in the light. And they're exceptionally relieved when you kind of run past. One or two of the guards seems to be standing firm, and you can see they're holding those batons, but they've unclipped them from the chain, and they're basically holding them like cudgels, because that's pretty much all that they're good for at the moment anyway.
I throw them a couple of staves as we run past, just
right
here.
What are our orders? Several of them shout.
Don't die.
Don't die, kill the gnomes.
All right. So on that positive note, you go running through. Eventually you get to that set of double bars, Con, which takes all of the rest of you past this melted humanoid lump. And this very dead gnome that's got lots of green scales sticking out from underneath.
Ooh, that's really quite odd. I mean, has anyone got a scalpel or a knife? Or
Cat, focus.
Later.
As you can see, if it looks like it's about to project our vomit in your direction, you should really try and get out of the way.
I get
Got
it.
Poor fellow got it in the face.
Oh, I can't believe I didn't prepare mage armor.
This poor fellow was talking into the speaking tube when that happened.
Right,
And here's
there's
the-
this human lying there without a jaw.
It's quite corrosive, isn't it?
At this point, you
Reminds
can
me of
see
someone.
Jorik is starting to glow slightly pink.
It works fast enough that I will not have time to do anything for you, so bear that in mind.
Gotcha.
Right.
Right,
absolutely.
on that note.
He tries to... You get to the bars, and you can see the guards on the other side. The moment they see your light, they immediately hold on to those bars, and they shout, "You've got to get us out of here!"
We have? Why?
They point into the pitch blackness behind them, and all you can hear are these fists banging and shouting and thudding on all of the metal doors as the prisoners are just going ape. They're going completely ballistic inside their cells. It's
Do your jobs!
Keep them calm.
So we don't need to go through that corridor, though, right?
Well, what happens is you've got to go through these double barred doors, and then that puts you into minimum security. So you'll be walking.
So we need to go through the wall to get to the engine room? Who built this kind of place?
Well, you'll see how it works when you get inside it. But the inner, not the inner track, let's say the corridor that you're going into is lined with holding cells. They're not supposed to have people in them. They're just there whilst people are being processed before they transfer deeper into the facility. So it is a circular passageway, but there are cells that line it. That's tiling. And yes, so the guards look at you. They take out these.
Do we need to open these doors? If we need to open these doors, then we open these doors.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's it. So yes, you put your hands against the doors, and the doors all immediately open, but they open about halfway and then they stop. And you can, once they open, you can sort of shoulder them aside, and the guards say, if it doesn't have power, well, and then they look at you.
When I open the door, I just run past them.
Right.
I'm done with these guards. Sorry, fisherman.
Fisherman, right.
I pause long enough to tell them to do their goddamn jobs and make sure nobody leaves this prison.
Right. So they start pulling those barred doors closed again.
As Jurg hears Con say that, he stops for a second just to speak to the guards, but then Con says that it keeps running.
Keeps running. All right. So your feet are pounding across this walkway and, this corridor. And on your right-hand side are all these holding cells, which are supposed to be empty. They're not supposed to contain anybody. But every now and again you pass one and there's a humanoid standing there, whether it's an orc or an elf, busy rattling the cages, shouting, "Let us out of here! What's going on? What's up with this? We're going to eat you all!" And sort of some of the things that you hear as you're running past these guards.
I'd give you indigestion.
You say. Now, you are running forward, and you can see that you're arriving at a large... it's obviously a check security choke point of some kind. Again, it's one of those big circular doors. But this one is about 15 foot tall. It's a massive circular archway. And it's just this very heavy stone that's keeping it shut, keeping it closed. And there's two guards standing in front of it. Again, the moment they see your light, they try and shout at you over the sound of the prisoners that are busy shouting. Now, from here, when you glance up, you realize, hang on a moment, the corridor doesn't have a ceiling on it like it normally does. And when you glance up, you actually can see that there's 3 stories of cells stacked on top of one another. And the prisoners are just stacked up high. So the top prisoners can only be gotten to by some kind of elevating system. There isn't an actual set of stairs going up there. And so that's where this noise is coming from. It's not just these holding cells, it's also the minimum security kind of place that's busy shouting. Anyway, the guards are standing there. They're looking at you terrified. And one of them says, "I hope that you've come to sort out him," they say, pointing behind them at the large doors. And as he says that, those large doors, there is an almighty thud against them. But that thud comes from about 7.5 foot up them. So up there is this thud, and you can see the doors cracking slightly.
Stone door.
Yeah.
So here's the question. Do we need to go through the cell block too? Or is this just
it's
side
not a
door?
cell block, sir. That's the corridor on the other side, but that opens out to the large creatures holding area. And
large creatures holding area?
This is me as a person asking you as a dungeon master. To get to the engine room, do we need to go through that big door too?
Yes, as far as you know. You didn't look at that diagram too long.
Right, I'm just following the directions that the warden gave.
Correct.
If we survive this, I'm going to find the architect and stab him.
Yeah, leave something from me.
He's probably long dead, but
Well, then we find a priest to revive him and stab him again.
Yes. We will catch up with you again next week. Journey through this frustrating prison with its inept guards continues. And,
not only inept guards.
Don't stay for our review. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you again next week. For those of you staying for the review, we continue now as we move straight along. The Dice of Destiny will tell us what's going on. And that's number 4. So that is you, Saket.
Again.
Yes.
Woo!
Well, you were 4 before, so you're still 4 now.
Yes, that's true. Well, that was fun. I didn't actually roll a dice that entire episode.
No, right. Well, you didn't really do anything that was
I didn't need
to. Leading, really.
Yet.
She didn't do anything dicey. Sorry.
Go home. That's my job.
So that was quite I'm just literally using my wits at the moment, which is interesting. Right. So yeah, really interesting episode. Where is this going?
Where is it going?
They're not zombie gnomes, and no, they could be lizard gnomes. And no, maybe they're scaly lizards with gnome skins on. I don't know. That's where Saket's going at this moment.
Right, absolutely. What is that? What is that origin? That's interesting. Captain Con, you had a run-in with one of these scaly gnomes.
Yeah, well, Con's efforts to, drink less are obviously not going to be helped by this at all.
There is a warning.
Just take a look at the other doctor. Then maybe that helps.
Right.
Find my hip flask. Yeah, it's fun to go into a session with one sort of idea in your head about what's happening, and then have that sort of be peeled away and realize there's more. And I enjoyed the little possible links to other stuff, like certainly now that we know that Section 13 is involved, or Department 13, or what? Sorry.
Yeah, Section 13. Yeah.
Section. That's the visual similarity between the scaly form beneath the skin and the what I was given by the Great Ambassador. So that's obviously going to be weighing on Con's mind. But it's a good old rollicking horror survival adventure as well.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, you got some practice doing that.
I like the little build-up. I think we all sort of played into the tension build because we're all not, it's hard. It's tempting to meta because we kind of know there's going to be this that we've got to go and find and stop and what have you. But I think everyone's stuck to their play and their character knowledge and awareness nicely.
And split the party 5 ways. Yes.
And split the party 5 ways. It's becoming increasingly obvious that the whole don't split the party thing is kind of a throwback to dungeon delving. And I think if you want to have plausible plots, stories that go beyond hack/dungeon delving,
you've got to expect it to happen, right? Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think you've handled that fine. In fact, Guy, I think you handle split parties pretty well for the most part.
I do enjoy them, I must admit. I enjoy the split party type of thing.
There's a bit of a skill to timing each person's segment so that you haven't got people twiddling their thumbs for too long or what have you. But
right, trying.
Oh, it works. Entertained when I'm not playing, so yeah.
That's good. That's a testimony to your fellow players, I think.
As well.
Yorick, you were almost twiddling your thumbs, I'm afraid. You were sort of dodging couch acid, really.
Actually, I don't mind.
Right.
Since you managed to dodge it.
Yeah, I managed to dodge it. That was actually a very lucky roll. No, but Jorik is... I intentionally didn't take too much place this time around because Jorik is having his own problems right now.
You mentioned that a few times.
Yes, he doesn't like this tense and crammed environment, and he's starting to be a little bit. I mean, I can't go too open with this
Right,
because it
yes.
becomes all about Jorik, but he has problems with his own inner demons right now, which is probably also why he snapped at the warden, because that was uncalled for, really. But he's having problems. And I'm trying to keep myself back as much as possible, because this means that Jorik is kind of going into himself and doesn't act out. So that's why I was very quiet this session.
Well,
in case people are wondering why Jorik wasn't doing anything, and that's because he's trying to not go absolutely apeshit.
Right. Absolutely. I can't imagine being in a facility that has no lights and that is got no windows, and I find
and also already being borderline insane. So
right. Yes,
it doesn't help.
There's that. Right. So, Simon, what did you're lamenting the state of the order at the moment, I think.
I was before. Now I seriously doubt.
Right.
As a player towards the session, yeah, it's like the arc kind of started to kind of move forward and to pick up speed. It's kind of fun to see your NPCs kind of act differently, and immediately as this captain of the guard kind of came, Blaxton was like, and he just kept talking. You're like, just shut up, do your job, and didn't get really better. I mean, it was interesting to see basically what it was, but I mean, I know things that I would have done differently as a dungeon master, but I won't get into them. Maybe as personal as Blaxton's motivation things is, he is really surprised on how different people are acting, specifically Siket. Like, he is like, oh, we need to solve this, and she's like, ah, pew, pew, pew. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's like, be serious, this is a problem, we need to solve this.
We all deal with stress in our own way.
And she's like,
He's dappy. Like, come on.
I, as a player, have no problem with that. I'm just like, he is just like in problem-solving mode, and then there's somebody who's just like,
right.
Exactly. So that's why at twice this session I kind of stopped conversations about like mundane things to just, okay, where do we need to go? Because he was just losing his, like, stop this. Like,
right. We have this potential catastrophe happening.
Exactly.
Right. And the most studious one who went to the place that got 2 face palms, as you announced that's where you were going.
I think out of love more than frustration.
Right.
We love you, really.
Right.
Yes. I mean, I think it's a little bit as well a sort of what's it called? Habit from Call of Cthulhu as well. you enter a weird place with potential zombies. You want to go to the library and check out the history of the place.
Right.
And you want to know, like, has weird shit happened here? What kind of shit is going on? Right. Is there like a gnome manifesto this thick talking about how they're going to like take zombie the world or something?
Right.
And I did find some interesting things, which is fun.
Did.
And like and interesting things which I like, because I mean I'm not a GM myself in this format anyway. I have in text and stuff, but I always find it difficult to give out stuff that's there that is relevant but also realistic, like that I don't find something that's like super useful and interesting but would never actually be written down in a place like that.
Right.
But I think you balanced that really well, and I think that the things I found felt very natural.
Right, for what you were sort of expecting to find anyway in a library.
Yeah, and you expect these things to be just sort of shoved into a room and forgotten, because it's not like the way these people run the place. It's not relevant.
Well, let me tell you, for that I was challenging the old college that I used to work at. I was horrified to find that they had a room that was
no.
exactly like this. And sort of lever
Oh,
arch
no.
files sort of split open, and you go,
No.
"What if?
Get
what
me
if
out
that-
here, get me out
Yes,
here.
exactly.
That was the old librarian before he
Exactly
threw himself
right.
into the volcano.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So there's places doing this. And I think that's what makes it more terrifying, perhaps, is that they all sort of relate to these rooms that no one wants to go into because there's just 30 years worth of useless documentation. At least it appears
I think-
useless on the surface.
I think all universities have one room like that. I
Right.
think we found ours as well.
It's by law.
It's almost the law, yes. Anyway, by law, we have to end the show. So thank you for watching, and we'll catch up with you again next week when the Windswift continues. Till then, goodbye.